You don't just survive with it, you impose order with it. The shield saw turns every fight into a battlefield puzzle, when to block, when to strike, when to throw, and every decision matters because in the Dark Ages, hesitation kills. In fact, every Doom title is about frequent and unconscious decisions, as the series gives you little time to breathe during its breakneck-paced battles. While this originally started as choosing the right ammo for the right enemy, by the time the series reached Doom Eternal, the player was making dozens of decisions a minute, as the player had to juggle multiple weapons, grenades, chainsaws, glory kills, flamethrowers, blood punches, and the Crucible. On top of that, the game explicitly told you what the best weapon for every enemy was, creating a rock-paper-scissors dynamic with your demon slaying. It became a hectic juggling match that all fit together perfectly to create a chimeric fusion of tactics and action. But there was a flaw in this grand design that blemished the Slayer's blood-soaked armor. Many of these mechanics were tied to certain items that had to be equipped in order to utilize, and the frequent swapping on the weapon wheel ground the pace of carnage to a halt. So the Dark Ages had the genius idea of tying together as many mechanics as possible into one item that was always equipped, the shield saw. To say this game is built around this mechanic is an understatement. The Dark Ages is built around the shield saw like Portal is built around the portal gun. Because the sheer utility of this item is dazzling, and its omnipresence in every encounter is staggering. The first mechanic that the shield saw compensates for is the lack of glory kills. Doom has always been a franchise that rewards you for aggressive play, as health pickups were always frequent and incentivized reckless assaults. Doom isn't a series about mitigating as much damage as possible, it's about healing more damage than you take, and this is what made the glory kills such an elegant system. However, there was simply nowhere left to go with the mechanic after Doom Eternal, so the Dark Ages required a new method of damage mitigation, and while the shield saw at first seems like a counterintuitive idea, its implementation is brilliant. Because the saw isn't about defense, it's about parrying, which is a mechanic that's the perfect blend of attack and defense, and the Dark Ages is parrying perfection. The twitchy nature of the parry blends wonderfully with Doom's hyper-pacing, and rewards that reaction speed with a devastating attack on foes, thereby turning defense into an attack whilst actually increasing the speed of battle, unlike the glory kills whose micro cutscenes served as mini pace breakers. This turns the parrying into your primary source of damage mitigation, but as the game continues to up the ante with shield runes, it also makes parries one of the Slayer's most devastating offensive options, making the Dark Ages the most rewarding parry since Clear Obscure. Look, I know that's not an impressive gap in time, but I don't make the release schedule. However, parrying is a delicate art in game design, as it often requires intense study of an enemy's moves so you can figure out their tells to unleash your devastating counter. But Doom is much too fast a game for it to realistically expect players to learn the tells of individual enemies, which is why the game brilliantly incorporates a universal tell, the Hell Surge. By making the counter signal a large neon flash, it's able to communicate to the player in a microsecond when the attack is coming purely on a basic visual. There's no distortion or shape to the counters like in other parry-heavy games, just a formless wave of fluorescent lime that instantly grabs the player's attention the instant it's emitted. But while that's the biggest mechanic the shield saw replaces, it's far from the only one. Where previous Dooms incorporate shield enemies that recommend a plasma weapon to deal with, the Dark Ages introduces a new appropriately metallic variant that's built around the shield. When you throw your shield at these enemies, their shields become hyperheated and can be detonated by pumping just one more white-hot bullet into them. Though curiously, the plasma shield enemies also return, but that may just be because you can't have a Doom game without some kind of plasma weapon. Then there's the shield bash mechanic, which transports you immediately to an enemy's personal space to unleash some close-range carnage. This is in place of both the dash and the meat hook from Eternal, which were your primary movement tools during hectic encounters. While the shield bash does combine these two mechanics into one, which means the player has one less resource to manage, it does lose the verticality that was so integral to Doom Eternal, though the level design has been rebuilt around that. The shield strike move is a replacement for the blood punch as a source of massive burst melee damage, which complements exquisitely with the previous mechanic. Though I question the combo system, as it does halt the flow of battle to complete essentially a QTE, though I suppose it does give the player a chance to breathe. And the throw mechanic, which can stun a single enemy, is a replacement for the freeze grenade from Eternal in order to give the player a brief respite from particularly overwhelming foes. What the Shield Saw ultimately achieves is a streamlining of all of Doom Eternal's many mechanics and ties them all into an omnipresent piece of gear that reduces the player's mental workload and puts their reaction speed to the ultimate test. For more Doom the Dark Ages essays, here's one that's about why the removal of glory kills is a benefit, and I'll be back in 2 days.